All right, I'm really excited to see how many people are joining us for this presentation today. I'm going to look over to the Hope Terrace team. Hope Terrace, do you think you're ready to start presenting here?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So yeah, everybody, thank you for joining us today. Just a quick introduction. I'm Chris. I'm the communication specialist here with Bissell Center. We're doing a fantastic presentation today here on Hope Terrace, and um, please, folks, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a first of its kind supportive housing building designed specifically for people with FASD to help them overcome their barriers to housing. So I'm really excited to see this presentation, learn more about this fantastic program we have going here with Bissell Center. So yeah, we're joined by members of the team from Hope Terrace and a current resident with Hope Terrace who is going to share some of their personal experiences from calling this place home. So we'll start the presentation. Our folks here will talk. We have a few slides here we're going to go through. And then after the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A session. For the Q&A session, I have the chat function open here on this presentation. So please feel free to input your questions here into the chat. Once we get through the presentation, I'll go through the chat and I'll ask your questions over to the team here. And yeah, this is going to be a great presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Nola Visser.
Hi everybody, my name is Nola Visser and I am the manager of supportive housing with Bissell Center, and we are absolutely thrilled to be chatting about our housing and the models of care that we use today, and we're also really looking forward to any questions that you might have. I'm joined today by our occupational therapist, Diana Vanderstoel. She is also our client care lead, so she takes lead of all of our individual care plans for our residents, and she also runs and facilitates a lot of our programming. We have multiple programs that run throughout the week, and Diana holds all of that with a lot of grace. And we also are joined by Patrice. Patrice has been living at Hope Terrace over a year now.
December 1st, it'll be a year.
So yes, Patrice has been with us for almost a year now, and it has been so wonderful and such a privilege to get to know Patrice and all of the gifts and all of the talents and all of the skills that she brings to our community. And so we're really looking forward to hearing your story today as well.
Thank you.
Pass it over to Diana to talk a little bit about the building.
Yeah, so we'll give you a quick overview of the building, but really this is about hearing from Patrice and her experience in supportive housing. So we opened up in 2022. It's one of 5 buildings that Homeward Trust put up, and we are run by Bissell. So if you look at these pictures, that's our building, and we're located in King Edward Park. We have some pretty nice common spaces you can see there. So we have a community kitchen where we can all cook together and do activities together, and this cultural worker comes in and does a lot of support with the residents there. We have a community garden. We have a front desk that's staffed 24 hours a day, so just kind of the day-to-day supports that someone needs, so it's always available to them here. And then all the way on the right-hand side, you can see an example of an apartment in our building. So we have 34 apartments, most are studios, and we have a couple accessible suites as well. So yeah, that's Hope Terrace, just kind of in an overview.
And our philosophy of care at Hope Terrace is we want to focus on empowering people living with FASD to reach their full potential, whatever that looks like. So lots of our residents are in school, some of them are working towards getting employment or volunteering, and so we look at how do we build recovery capital into day-to-day living. And so we talk a lot about how do we look at what you're really, really good at and then provide you support so that you can continue to grow and reach whatever goal it is that you want to reach. So we really focus on maintaining security through connection And community is our top priority. We work with residents in their homes, we work with them outside in the community, we work with them in our communal spaces, and a lot of that is just done through talking and building relationship and getting to know people, and then connecting them with the resources that they need to grow. So we look at creating space for interventions, not just on an individual level, but also on a community level. So one of the things that we do here and we value is how are we good neighbors within the King Edward Park community. And some of the ways that we do that are working with the community on community events. And so earlier this spring, we were a part of planning and participating in a big community barbecue, and one of our residents was able to tell their story, and we had a table set up. And over half of our building actually went and participated in the games and the music and the food in the community. We also do 2 neighborhood walks a day. And so a staff member and a resident go out on a route, and we just pick up garbage, we shovel sidewalks, we offer to mow yards. We have somebody in our program who really loves doing yard work, and we also work really closely with local businesses and organizations to ensure that the community stays safe. So now
we're gonna to take some time to ask Patrice a few questions about kind of her experience and growth and who she is. So if you could go to the first slide. Patrice, can you first tell us, we're a building specifically set up to support those who have FASD. So Patrice, what was it like living with FASD as you grew up?
I wasn't diagnosed with FASD when I was a child. I was later diagnosed when I was an adult. I grew up being bullied and teased and was told I was a troubled child because I couldn't learn. I didn't have the learning capacity when I was growing up. And I in the 50s and 60s, there was no precise studies of FASD. As I was growing up, people classified me as a troubled student. And being able to learn quickly, plus I was what you call a 60s scoop child, was stolen from my mother, and when I was born. I was put in a non-native home with 6 brothers and sisters. I've been sober since 1991, and I've been clean from hard drugs since 2005. I was diagnosed with FASD 8 years ago. In my adult years, I left domestic abuse and went to Wynn House in 2023. I was told by a housing worker about Hope Terrace and how it could meet my needs with FASD. Having FASD is difficult for me to live on my own life. I had a lot of difficulties living on my own.
So Patrice, how have you helped your peers be successful, and how have they helped you?
Right now, I'm the oldest here, and so everybody calls me Coco. I've helped my peers to be successful by telling my story and being open with them. At Hope Terrace, I lead a recovery group and an art group to help express emotions. I think that peers relate more to me because of my lived experience. And this makes leading this group successful. I believe that my peers are more open to me because I am able to be honest with my story and my ability to be in recovery. To this day has helped me and guided me in my spiritual journey. My peers have opened my eyes, and I have learned from my peers how difficult it is to live with FASD. To have my peers around to understand them and to honor them has helped me grow as well.
And we should also add that this art group that Patrice started here at Hope Terrace, on Monday she taught it to a group outside of Hope Terrace, and 3 weeks ago, she went to Toronto to present, Ottawa, sorry, went to Ottawa to present it as a peer-to-peer intervention in supportive housing. So she's taken it quite far. Yeah, so you can go to the next slide. So now that you're at Hope Terrace, we'd love to tell people, how has living at a place like Hope Terrace been helpful to you?
This is a loaded question. I believe that living at Hope Terrace has helped me with the support I need. Hope Terrace has given me the opportunity to learn about FASD and how I have coped with it in my life. It has become clear with my diagnosis that I am not embarrassed about it anymore. I have built routines at Hope Terrace, including getting up in the morning and doing my recovery work, eating breakfast that is prepared on site. I attend and lead recovery meetings and participate in program, cook with staff, work on goals, and get medication support from my home care nurse. If I have questions throughout the day, I work with my case manager. Staff has always given me the confidence to share my wisdom and my story.
So Patrice, can you tell us what supports are needed to bring out the strengths of somebody living with FASD?
I believe living with FASD is challenging. However, living at Hope Terrace have made my challenges a lot easier to handle. I'm not overwhelmed. Some valuable things that people with FASD need are structure, having people around you with similar experiences, setting up opportunities that we need. This has given me a learning capacity, and it has broadened it is broader than I had before.
So finally, Patrice, you are a very accomplished woman. But we would love to hear from your experience what some of your biggest accomplishments have been, in the hope that it's inspiring to others too.
Thank you. In my years, I've accomplished many things while living with FASD. I collected 2,250 signatures for a petition for home for abused men and presented them in front of Don Getty and the legislature to have a recovery house for men. This opened up 2 years later. The bill was passed and the home was opened for living guidance towards a peaceful life. I have also done a lot of advocacy, including being on the radio to talk about addiction and recovery. I've spoken at conferences about HIV, and I have spoken at the FASD fundraiser to raise awareness. Hope Terrace has opened my spirit and made me more aware that the love I have for people and the knowledge I have achieved that I can share.
Thank you.
So now we just wanted to take the opportunity to open it up to everybody here. If you have any questions for Diana or for myself, or if you want to hear more about Patrice, she also leads art programming. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you do with your collages and how that's impacted the building, and then we'll hand it back over to Chris for questions.
About May of this year, I did a collage workshop for the first time in the house, and how a collage helps you to release your emotions, and that the pain that you have inside of you is put on paper. I did the workshop in May, and I had one person who made well over 25 to 30 collages since then, and that person had showed me every collage that he had achieved and made. And I actually kind of figured out the collage thing myself. I started it many years ago, and it seems to help me to release everything what's inside and to leave it on the paper, and then be proud of what you created, because what comes out of your heart goes back on the paper.
I've also noticed in your classes that there's a lot of communal support for each other, because once your emotions are on the paper, you're seeing it in each other and you're able to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, Chris, we will hand it back over to you.
There's some questions in the chat.
Chris is gonna
Yeah, I'm seeing a couple questions in the chat here. I just want to take the time. Patrice, thank you so much for talking today. Sharing your experiences and your views are highly invaluable. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us on this presentation. Yeah, we got some questions rolling in here. So the first one I see here is, what were the challenges that we found when we first opened Hope Terrace?
So Hope Terrace was actually opened in 2016, and we were in a different facility, and we had the privilege to move to King Edward Park, and we doubled our capacity. So we moved from an 18-suite building to a 34-suite building, and I can talk about some of the challenges regarding that because I facilitated that move. And so the biggest thing is just really making sure that you're focused on building community. You are all coming together, team and residents, and external community, to empower people to get to where they want to go. And so the biggest challenge was just getting everybody on the same page and making sure that we were all moving in the same direction, understanding that the most important thing is always the residents. Their voice needs to be the loudest, their leadership needs to be respected and honored and taken seriously. And from there, we were able to build out new programs and new policies and different levels of support, because we had fostered safety in connection and safety in community.
Thank you for that, Nola. Diana, I think this next question is for you. So what's the value of having an occupational therapist on the team when you're supporting folks with some neurodiversity?
Yeah, thanks. Always nice to plug OT. So, yeah, it's not a very typical role for an occupational therapist. So I am very grateful to be here. The role of an occupational therapist is kind of like, when they talk about occupation, it's anything in life that is meaningful to you. So for the residents at Hope Terrace, living with FASD, that can be just those activities in daily living, or it can be leisure goals, or productivity, going back to work, going back to school. It's anything that matters to you. Or Patrice, like sharing her story with the world and being an advocate. So I think the value of having an OT is that I can work with the residents one-on-one to really see what the barriers are to getting there, and seeing if we can do some adaptation to get people past those barriers. And so I think it's been very rewarding for me to see some of the impressive things that the residents of Hope Terrace have been able to do.
I'm going to also add on another value of having Diana here is Diana actually really works with the staffing team as well, and teaches them and provides different interventions for the staff to help support the residents. So her knowledge and her expertise and her understanding on a more clinical side it's invaluable, not just to the residents, but also to the staff team as a whole. And the work that Diana is able to accomplish with all of the residents is in part due to her ability to teach and to practice these things with the staff team, and then empower the staff team to support residents in ways that work best for them.
Yeah, thank you. I should add, like, I do get to do a lot of behind-the-scenes assessment. So with neurodiversity, we can do a lot of cognitive assessments and executive functioning assessments and activities of daily living. So we can really know each resident on a very individual level, and then hopefully provide a lot more individual care and support as people are pursuing their goals.
Oh, thanks for that, team. What a great question, actually. So how about the referral process? Like, how was that referral process working for the folks at Hope Terrace?
Yeah, so we are partnered with Homeward Trust. And so our referral process is through coordinated access. So if you are living with FASD, you can get referred to coordinated access, and then from there you go what's called the by names list. and there's some assessments and some paperwork that needs to be filled out, and that's usually done through the support of a housing worker or a social worker. You can also self-refer. And then from there, when we have a vacancy, we work with coordinated access and we ask them to put any referrals into our intake list. And then Diana starts an initial file review. We reach out to the individual looking for housing, and we also reach out to the individual who referred them. And then we start kind of like the application process from there. But everybody has to come off of the by names list.
Yeah, and then it's really just a matter of can we build a care plan in which we have everything someone needs to be set up for success. We go from there.
Oh, thanks for that, folks. I actually didn't even know about that intake and referral process. So this is really great knowledge to have. I actually see a acronym that I don't recognize, so please don't judge me for this, but does PDD play a big part in the supports of the residents? And maybe you can explain what PDD is for, somebody like me.
Yes, for sure. So I wish that PDD played a bigger part. For the most part, PDD is funding from the Alberta government for people living with developmental disabilities. And it's individualized support. Most of our residents do not have PDD support, so we don't have PDD funding. Once they move into Hope Terrace, it actually becomes really difficult for us to get them access to PDD funding because they live in housing where there are 24/7 on-site supports. And so we've been working with PDD for a few years now to try and figure out how can we better work together, because our staffing model is 3 support workers during the day and 2 at night. So we're looking at about a 1:17 ratio, which doesn't leave a lot of time for the one-on-one long-timed supports. Our residents who do have PDD funding, everything is done external to the staffing and the supports that are offered on site.
Thanks for that insight there, Nola. Another question here about, is there a time limit for folks who are living at Home Terrace?
No. So supportive housing is a time unlimited intervention. We have folks who have lived here for 7 years, and they will likely continue to live here for many, many more years. And then we actually also have individuals who have moved into Hope Terrace and worked with their case manager and Diana and our resident support workers, and they have actually grown the confidence and the independence and the skills that they need to move out into independent living. And so we've had 8 people in the past year actually move out into independent market housing. So it is totally dependent on the individual, but they can stay for as long as they would like or need to.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love hearing that folks are moving into fully independent living after, gaining some new skills and knowledge from Hope Terrace. So that's absolutely great knowledge to have here. That's it for the questions in chat, but if you guys don't mind, because we have the time, I do have a few questions as well. I was hoping to throw your direction. Is that all right with you?
Sure.
So I kind of wanted to talk about my favorite feature at Hope Terrace, and I kind of designed my living room around this idea, but the snoozle-in. Can you tell me all about the snoozle-in and how that's been benefiting folks living at Hope Terrace?
Do you want to talk about the snoozle-in room?
What?
The snoozle-in room?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, that respite room is so good.
Sorry, snoozle-in is the brand name, but
Yes.
there's a sensory processing room we call the respite room. So yeah.
I have problems with crowds. I have problems with people in the lobby. And if I'm in there, I get stressed. So a staff member opens the respite room for me so I can relax and gather my thoughts and be in a quiet place and be able to calm down and ground myself there. And the respite room is the best place ever. I've never had a room like that before. Yeah.
And so the setup of the snoozling room is, it's all about senses. And so there's a projector, and there's about 50,000 different backgrounds or experiences that you can have on it, and it's connected into a sound system. And there's lights all over the room.
Oh man, there's just dot lights and it's pretty purple and pink.
And it can all be changed, and it's all linked in together. The furniture in there is also velvety, soft,
comfy.
And then there's also a chair that is connected into the sound system. And so if you're sitting in the chair, you'll feel the beat of the music in the chair, which also can help that emotional
That is my
regulation.
favorite spot. Yeah.
And then my favorite thing in the snooze room is we have a big bubble tube.
Oh yeah.
And so it lights up and the bubbles go, and it's very calming, very relaxing. But we also have people who go in there when they're feeling sad or just feeling a little bit down. And there's like crazy music that plays with like, it's hard to explain.
Well, it's also
like
sensory regulation.
Yes.
So for some people that will be like they're overstimulated and they need to calm themselves, and for other people they're kind of understimulated or sad or something, and it's about energizing them.
Yes.
Using sensory information. So yeah, we also use it for like tough conversations and tough moments. We can have them in a very like safe sensory space.
No, and actually, we just got a question in on that same topic around those sort of like tough conversations. We do have somebody asking if residents are ever asked to leave or if there are substances allowed in the building. So maybe we could talk through some of the rules that residents are expected to live by when they're living at Hope Terrace.
Yeah, for sure. There are times when residents are asked to leave. It is rare, and it's not something that we take lightly. We try every intervention, every kind of restorative practice that we can. It's very rare that somebody is evicted. The only time that it is an immediate eviction is if there's physical violence towards a staff member. We do take safety really seriously here.
Yes.
It's really important, not just to us, but it's really important to the residents. It's one of the main things that we talk about, that we hear from the residents, is the value of having a safe home and the right to having a safe home. So we do have evictions, but they are rare, and it takes quite a long time for somebody to get to the point where we need to talk to them about, is Hope Terrace the right place for you? Can we adequately support what you need to be the best version of yourself? And then as far as substances in the building, we do operate from a housing first philosophy. So we are harm reductive. Substances in people's homes is something that is up to them. We work really, really closely with our residents about staying safe and mitigating challenges and working towards recovery in multiple different facets of their life, and that does include substances. we have a zero tolerance for any type of substance in any common space or on the outside of our property. And we've actually had zero issues with that in my time at Hope Terrace. Everybody is really respectful of that.
Oh, thank you for those insights there. So at the beginning of the presentation, you did sort of like touch on some of the barriers that people with FASD were having towards housing, but I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit. You know, what do those individuals typically experience as barriers when it comes to maintaining housing?
I think that's a Patrice question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes it hard for you to live on your own with no supports?
Or some of your peers.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
what you've heard from others.
Oh my goodness. Before I came here, before I was able to move into Hope Terrace, I was living in a condominium and I had to climb 42 stairs every single day to get to my apartment. I have home care nurses. I had no help, absolutely no help at all when I was living in Clairview. I was totally on my own and I was so lost. And we were trying to get me in here. However, it took a few months. But living on my own, I can't do it. I don't know how to pay bills. I don't know how to look after money. I get help with my grocery shopping.
What about reminders? Are
Oh.
reminders for like appointments helpful, or your meds? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
My medication comes 4 times a day. So I know the time, morning, 2, 5, and 10. Getting into Hope Terrace relieved a lot of stress on me, relieved a lot of stress. I think when I moved in here, I was overwhelmed by all the help I'm getting. I've never had the support I have now, ever. And I can count on the staff. I can count on them for reminding me, for asking me how I am, and just, you know, it's just a blessing to live here. It really is.
Awesome to hear. One thing I hear from residents a lot is that it's very different to live out on your own, or as even some people have come from houselessness. How is it different moving into community?
Oh my Lord.
We're quite a community. Like, people are down and around and together
Yes.
most of the day.
Yeah.
When I moved in here, this is funny. We had a meeting and they ordered pizza and I'm, pizza! And somebody else said, you'll get sick of it. I said, no, I won't. I love pizza. If you put a pizza in front of me, I'd shove it away. This has been the best place for me. I really appreciate all the support and the help I get in the community and around the building.
And so some of the other challenges that we hear from other folks is executive functioning can be really challenging with FASD. So remembering to pay your rent, remembering to even go grocery shopping so you have food to eat, remembering that you have an appointment and then actually having to get to that appointment, that can be hard because sometimes your memory is like, oh, I knew I had to do that, but I forgot. Right? So that can be challenging.
I was evicted from a lot of my apartment, from a lot of my homes because I had a hard time paying rent. I either didn't pay it or I paid half of it. Grocery shopping was out of my league. I didn't know how to do that, period. I learned a lot of growing since I moved in here. They've given me the capacity to open up and to learn and to speak out for what I want or need. And I've never had that support before.
Would you say that some of the other challenges are learning how to work through your emotions?
That's a hard one.
It is hard. Do you think that sometimes can make it tough for people who have FASD to live with no supports because something happens and then you just get mad really fast, or you get frustrated really fast, or you get anxious really fast. And that can make it hard for somebody to keep their housing.
It was difficult. I was getting the right amount of money. However, the apartment and the bills and everything were taking up all my check. So I would go to the food bank every 2 weeks, or I would borrow money. I was not good on my own. I wasn't healthy. I was depressed. I was down. And when I moved in here, things started opening up and started blossoming in my life. I know I've grown here since I moved here, and I've only been here like 9 months.
Almost 12.
12, okay, 12. And actually, I like telling this to people, I'm excited to pay my rent. I'm really excited to pay my rent because I don't want to lose my room. And then they have room inspections, and I'm always trying to keep my apartment clean so that I have it clean. But Jen catches me all the time. She always marks something down that I forget.
Actually, this kind of segues nicely into one of our next questions here. So we're asking about like some of the tools or programs or motivators you're using to support people to maintain their housing.
I think Diana should take this.
Sure, yeah. So we run a lot of programs throughout the week, and the goal of those are both to meet people's personal goals. So an example is we have a cooking class every week because quite a number of people have made it their personal goal to learn how to cook. But it's also, these programs are to create exposure for people to kind of see what they might want out of life. And you can try it as a group with the staff. It's fairly safe. There's a lot of peer coaching in these programs. But the main goal and motivator that we're known for is our Awesome Sauce program. And yeah, I think that's what people probably want to hear about. So Awesome Sauce is like, it's a bit of a store. You can kind of buy things as a motivator for yourself. So each person comes in, does an assessment with me, and we look at their life in terms of their access to leisure, their ability to be productive, and then those like self-care and activities of daily living. And we try to pull out a few goals that are meaningful to them. And then we make a plan together on how can you overcome past barriers or create some motivation and get towards those goals. And as people take steps to those goals, they get points, and points can be spent in the Awesome Sauce program. So that's, I think, a big part of what we're about here.
It is. Yeah. It is. It encourages you. It really encourages me to get up in the morning, to do my recovery work, and to do my daily journal, and to complete it in the morning and have breakfast. That means that I'm starting a good day.
I think from a staff perspective, it also keeps us all on the same page because we're all sharing the understanding of people's goals and pushing them towards the Awesome Sauce success. So it keeps us kind of motivating you as a team.
Yeah. Yeah, and the nice thing too about Awesome Sauce is that once you complete a goal, then you can move on to something else. And so then you start earning points for other things because you've completed this skill, right? Maybe your goal is you want to take a shower 3 times a week. And so you've done that for 2 months in a row. So then you get to meet with Diana, and then you get to move on to the next thing, but you've built in this skill and this routine that you didn't have before.
Yeah, and we do outcome measures around it. So for those who are interested, we use the Canadian Occupational Performance Measure and the Personal Recovery Outcome Measure. And so we have seen improvement in people's self-report of both their success or their satisfaction in the way they're doing something and their ability to do something. So that's been encouraging.
Yeah, and the other tools and programs that we do at least once a week. We kind of have like a community outing. So that can be anything from going swimming to going bowling to a nature walk, photography. It comes from the people who are living here. And so we're constantly in community with them, asking like, oh, what do you want to do? Or, oh, K-Days is coming. Do you guys want to go to K-Days? And that's been really fun to see as that program has expanded. And then the other thing that we look at for programming as well is how are we giving back to community? The residents who live here are so good at so many things. And there is just like this innate value that they want to give back to community. And so Diana has created incredible opportunities for residents to use their skills to give back to community. And the two that are coming to my mind are, we have residents who really love fixing broken bikes and broken wheelchairs and broken walkers. And so Diana has partnered with an organization that collects bikes that are broken, and they drop them off here, and we have 3 residents who will fix them, and then we give them back, and they're donated back into community for people and families who maybe can't afford a bike. And the same thing with the walkers and the wheelchairs. So if there's a wheelchair or a walker that is broken, Diana will go pick it up and bring it back here, and the residents will fix it so that it can be given back to people in the community who can't afford to buy a new wheelchair or a new walker, or who actually can't even afford to procure one in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's so much good.
Yeah.
Also, there's we have a couple people like Patrice who are doing a lot of advocacy and public speaking.
Yes.
We have quite a number of people who are on like councils and groups that can support like other community organizations that are kind of working with FASD or similar work. So yeah, there are some residents doing some very impressive things for the city of Edmonton.
We have a question here about specific FASD training that staff might be taking. Like I know throughout Bissell, we all take FASD awareness training, and like that training alone is like expanded my mind, my knowledge sense so much around FASD. But is there any more like specific training that Hope Terrace staff take to understand FASD?
Yeah, I do that FASD training here for our staff as well. I'd say on top of that, there's a lot of like one-on-one training, like
Yes.
people with specific knowledge or specific questions where we're doing a lot of internal training around that, or one-on-ones with Alex.
And as a leadership team, we're always doing our best to stay connected with like external partners and external groups, so that we are continually learning, and then that is filtered down to the staff about, okay, maybe the evidence is showing this is a better practice in regards to emotional regulation. And so we just shift things as the information and as the research becomes available. We partner really strongly with the Edmonton Fetal Alcohol Network. They also fund our program. And so I meet with them, the network, once a month. And there's lots of clinicians at the table, there's lots of operators at the table, and so there is lots of conversation about what does training look like and what is the information that's coming, but a lot of it is really
Like almost peer-to-peer network.
peer-to-peer.
Like, as an employee here, I felt very supported to like be part of a community of OTs and access education with them and access outside education and be able to share that with our team. There's a good openness to that here.
Thank you for that. We do have somebody wondering if folks living at Hope Terrace are paying extra for any sort of this programming, or is this all just sort of built into what their regular rent would be?
That's a really good question. So the residents do not pay for programming. We are very grateful to the Edmonton Fetal Alcohol Network, also known as EFAN. They fund us, and with that funding, we are able to do all of the programming. So our awesome sauce programming, the offsite programming, we're able to we have a lot of community meals where residents are cooking for the whole building, and those types of things. So we have found other avenues of support so that the residents don't have to pay for it, because it would be a lot. I don't know.
If you add it all up, Noah, it would be just using your whole check.
Yeah, you'd have no money to
You'd
buy
have no
groceries or
No,
cell phone.
the programs that you offer are needed. They are needed to bring up our confidence, to bring up our passion on living. They need the support within them, and each individual has their own stage of FASD. So each worker has a limit amount of time with that certain resident, and this is the best place for FASD clients. I for the first time, I'm being understood.
Well, that was the last question that I'm seeing on the chat for right now. I do have one more question though. Just in learning about Hope Terrace and what residents are doing inside the building to support each other, I was hoping you could actually tell me a little bit more about the tenant council and what some of the successes have been around the tenant council inside Hope Terrace.
Well, you're newly on the tenant council, I guess.
Yes,
So maybe
yes.
it's too soon for you. Patrice was recently asked to be the second floor representative. And so the tenant council was actually formed by the tenants. My only really involvement is sometimes I type stuff up for you guys, like I'm the admin assistant. So it is a group of tenants who have gotten together, and they've created a council to like really address the personal needs of the residents. And so they have a representative from each floor, and then a chairperson, and they discuss like the challenges that are going on day to day. So that can be around guest management or programming or things like that. And then they act as advocates to management and our landlord as well. And they've been really helpful in taking messaging from us as a team and the landlord and sharing that with the residents. And I think it just like the knowledge coming from the residents getting together is invaluable. Like there's things we could just never know as staff or have never experienced, and so it's been huge having that tenant council.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm not seeing any more questions on the chat. Maybe give one more second here, see if I've got another question. You've really covered off everything on here. You've given a really great overview of Hope Terrace and what's all happening here. So I'm very thankful for that. Yeah, if there's no other questions coming in from the audience, I don't know, is there any final parting words or any final parting thoughts or any other details about Hope Terrace that we didn't cover off that you want to share before we call it a day?
I just want to say thank you to Patrice for being so open and talking about all of the things that have got you to this point.
Thank you. You're welcome.
It's brave and it's courageous, and it really is just a privilege. And it's a privilege for us as a team to work with everybody who lives here. And I would just encourage everybody to just really take away the words of Patrice, because this is your story and this housing is for you.
Yeah.
Because you deserve it. And so, yeah, for us, it's just coming to work every day is really special, and having the privilege to walk alongside people and to empower people who haven't always been given the supports that they need and they deserve is a privilege, and it's not something that we take lightly.
No, very grateful, both for the job but also being able to collaborate with you in this last little while.
Thank you.
I think the last slide has the contact information for both Nola and myself if you have any further questions or you want to talk about intakes, anything